Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett and US President Joe Biden have spoken on the phone about a range of issues, including Iranian aggression and measures to stop the Iranian nuclear program. The two also discussing the situation between Russia and Ukraine. The Israeli Prime Minister congratulating the US on the recent assassination of ISIS leader Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi, noting that the world is now a safer place thanks to the courageous action of American forces. Bennett also thanking the US president for his steadfast support for Israel personally and for the entire American administration, emphasizing American assistance in financing the Iron Dome. The Prime Minister inviting the President and First Lady to visit Israel. So for more insight, we now welcome Mark Schulman, Editor-in-Chief at History Central and editor and columnist at Newsweek, and he joins us from Tel Aviv. Good to see you, Mark. So these two leaders haven't spoken since May. There have been tensions between the two administrations, even reports that Joe Biden had refused that phone call from Naftali Bennett, reportedly over West Bank settlement plans in recent weeks. So what is your assessment? What do you make of the details of this call?
Well, we only have the readout from the Israeli side. There hasn't been a readout yet from the White House. I mean, it's Sunday, and I think right after they spoke, Biden then left. I think he was probably in his home in Delaware and went back to the White House. So there hasn't been time to set out a readout. Listen, this is just one of those calls where you touch base. They haven't spoken in 3 months, but there's been an awful lot of interaction between Israel and America on multiple levels. Both in terms of foreign minister and in terms of the security advisors. And of course, on the military level, there's been quite a lot of coordination over the last couple of months. Look, the big issue, of course, is the Iran nuclear deal. And Israel's sort of shadow dancing in this topic because on one hand, Israel wants some sort of an agreement, but it wants an agreement, a better agreement versus a worse agreement. And the United States wants an agreement a little bit more than Israel does in terms of the fact that it's willing to make more concessions than I think Israel would like. And that's really the center of any sort of tension that would exist on the issue. In terms of the West Bank, look, Biden has decided he's not really getting involved in the issue whatsoever. There's no up. It's other presidents have tried and failed, and there's no reason Biden is going to get involved in any large degree. He doesn't want Israel to upset the apple cart and create additional problems from at home, particularly amongst his base, the progressive base, that is problematic in terms of their views on Israel. So I think as far as that's concerned, that's his main concern. In terms of Russia, Ukraine, Israel's in a tough position here because, I mean, it's a good position and a tough position at the same time. Israel is probably one of the few countries in the world to have excellent relations both with Ukraine and Russia, and both with the United States and Russia. And so Israel doesn't want to upset the apple cart in any direction. On the other hand, it is in a position, I wouldn't say to mediate. It's certainly not going to mediate between these powers, but at least to get a feel from all sides and speak to all sides about it. That's one of Israel's great successes recently is the fact that it really is friends around the world. It's friends with China, it's friends with Russia, of course it's friends with Ukraine, and of course there's the United States. But sometimes when friends fight, it becomes a real problem. And Israel may have to pick sides at some point.
Well, as you're pointing out,
look,
can continue, Mark.
I was just going to say that, this is just one of those phone calls. Maybe, sometimes it happens more often, sometimes less often, but it's a touch base. And of course, Naftali Bennett wants to make sure that he has an open door to the White House if he ever needs it. And that's really the most important thing for Israel to know, that the prime minister can actually reach the president if it becomes necessary.